Hello, it's Josh McEwen here with episode 1 of Dufferin Spotlight on Business, where we let you know what's in your community while highlighting the advantages of shopping local. Today we're here with Chris Peddle of Gauntlet Comics, which is located on 5 First Street in Orangeville. Through Gauntlet Comics, Chris helps both enthusiasts and beginners navigate the wide world of comic books. Even though they seem pretty straightforward, there is a lot going on with comic books. There are many types with many different storylines, and it can be pretty daunting to those just getting started. Thankfully, due to Chris's vast product knowledge, he's able to help those who don't even know what they're looking for find an enjoyable read. We are lucky to have people like Chris in this community, and we are thankful for his time and allowing us to learn more about his business. Thank you, Chris, and I hope everyone enjoys listening. Hey, so we're here with Dufferin Spotlight on Business, and I'm Josh McEwen, and I'm here with Rob Bailey.
How's it going, everyone? We're here today with Chris Peddle, owner of the Gauntlet Comics and Games at 5 First Street.
What's up, everyone?
So what are your most popular products and services?
By far, my most popular product is comic books, being that I'm a comic book store. But comic books do come in multiple varieties. You have like your periodical ones that come out monthly or bi-monthly, like Spider-Man, Batman, Captain America, The Avengers, Justice League. The list goes on. But when they finish stories, they are collected into what's called a trade paperback or a graphic novel. And they are collections of full stories. And they sell for a little bit more, but you're also getting a complete story when you purchase the book. You
actually explained those to me the other day, and I really appreciate those because they actually allow you to appreciate a story, get a little bit more continuity instead of having to come back each week, and if you miss a issue,
well, that's the idea. I mean, there's going to be different types of people that come into my store. There's the diehard collector that wants to buy the periodicals because they might go up in value by collecting them. I'm sure everybody's heard of stories of comic books going up in value and people selling them off. Well, that's kind of what most comic book collectors like to do. They collect them in hopes that they'll appreciate in value, and one day they can sell them for money or just keep them. I mean, there are a lot of people that just buy them because they enjoy the comic book as well. But there's also a new, I guess I shouldn't say new, but there is a different brand of customer that just wants to read the stories, enjoy the artwork that the artists put into it, and trade paperbacks and graphic novels are one of the best ways to do. Trade paperbacks and graphic novels, the likelihood of them going up in value is a lot slimmer than a periodical.
Yeah.
But you also get a lot more of the story.
That makes sense.
And looking around in here, it looks like you have something for just about anyone, too. I mean, you got everything.
Oh, yeah. My selection of books when it comes to comic books is pretty broad scope. I mean, I've got a kids section where you're going to find books that are good for younger audiences, like 10 years or under. Then you get into like my main release section, which is going to be everything superhero related from all the major companies: DC, Marvel, Image, Dark Horse, Boom, IDW, all the big companies that are putting comics out right now. I also have my back issue section where if you want to just find a cheaper comic book or something more specialty, they range in price from my basic back issues, which are $3 a book, to the ones that have gone up in value, which can range all the way up to hundreds of dollars depending on when the book came out and what the book was.
Awesome. Do you do trades?
I will occasionally do trades. I mean, if it's an item that I know that I can turn around fairly quickly, and or one of my regulars is looking for, I will trade book for book kind of thing, or give them store credit for the value. I don't usually buy collections because comic books are a weird anomaly where your books are either worth a lot of money or they're worth not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's worth not a lot of money, I just don't want more of it because I got a back room full of it.
Yeah.
Right. But the stuff that's worth a lot of money, I don't necessarily have the money to throw at buying your collection.
For sure. You want to keep
not
your
to mention, for me to purchase a comic book and throw it onto my wall, business, the cost of business is going to be me not giving you what the comic is worth. So you're better off trying to sell that in a more controlled environment for yourself, like using Kijiji or eBay or whatnot, because you're going to be able to sell it to the person actually looking for that specific book for what the book is worth, as opposed to me having to give you, 50% to 75% of the book's value and just so I can put it on the wall for what the book is worth.
That makes a ton of sense.
So selling to a comic shop, as an advice for somebody, unless you're looking to just sell the stuff quick and you don't care what you get, you're better to just try selling it privately.
Yeah, well, just think about it. Like, you're going to be sitting on that book for theoretically a longer time than if you put that money into new stock, because you're going to be most likely selling through it that week.
Well, there is market for both sections, and that's why when you come in, if it's something I know that somebody's looking for because they missed out on it, or it's an older book where somebody's trying to fill a run of books or complete a collection, I might throw the money down at you there and then just because I know one of my regulars is looking for the book.
Makes sense.
As opposed to, a book that I have no interest in because of the fact that I don't know when somebody might come in looking for that book.
Yeah, good point. Good point. You want something you can actually turn around quick.
One of the general rules of business, especially retail, is you want to turn product over as soon as you possibly can.
Exactly.
If you spend money on product and that product sits on your shelf,
it's dead money.
It's dead money.
Yeah.
So I want to turn stuff over as fast as possible. So I'm no different than, any other retail business is that, I deal in comic books.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. You definitely don't want to have to keep a big bulk of overhead in stock for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So are you working on any major projects or jobs?
The biggest project I probably have going right now is I run a lot of after-hours tabletop games like
Awesome.
Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder.
Yeah.
When the weather cools down a little bit and we get back into the fall, I also try doing up a board game night where people can come in and do board games and whatnot. So, I have a lot of after-hours projects I have going on the go. So
Awesome.
my free time is very limited because of these projects. I'm also trying to get my online presence going a little better.
I've been seeing the work you're doing on Facebook. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm trying to improve my Facebook presence. For the longest time, my Facebook was just acting up on me. But then I ended up getting a new computer, and now since I've gotten my new computer, everything has been running smoothly. So I'm trying to be a lot more active on Facebook, trying to throw on more sales and deals and, put some more descriptions of books and what's going on around the store. Trying to get out there every couple days at least to put something up on Facebook.
Smart.
So if anyone listening is interested in your game night, how would they approach you about that?
You can either come into the store itself and ask me what I have going at the given time, and if I have any available spots open for people. I'm always willing to start a new night if I get enough people interested in it. You could also send me an email at gauntletcomics@gmail.com or go on my Facebook page, which is just Gauntlet Comics on Facebook.
I'm sure a lot of people in the community would be interested in that.
Board games are making a resurgence for sure, especially with dates and stuff like that. It's becoming a big thing.
Oh, yeah. Tabletop gaming community is pretty large. It's people getting out and being able to socialize with people in the same room is always an attraction as opposed to sitting at home and staring at a screen.
Exactly.
Do you get many people coming from outside of the area to come play, or?
I've got a couple people in some of my games that are coming decent distance. I've got somebody who comes from like Arthur. I've got another guy that comes from like Kitchener.
Okay, so that's something that could draw people in from all over then.
Oh yeah. The problem with the things like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder is you can only put so many players in a game before the game doesn't work anymore. So, running a game has to be very once you've hit the capacity mark, the game is full.
Are there any team-based games that you run? Or are they all kind of sorry, so I'm not too familiar with D&D and Pathfinder. So, is there a team-based... I think there is cooperation, but is there really...
Oh, yeah, well, the whole thing with Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or most tabletop games is you are working collectively.
Yeah.
Basically, how it works is there is a dungeon master or a storyteller to the game, and that person is putting the other players into scenarios and situations, and the players have to work together to overcome those situations by rolling dice and acting out what their character would do in that scenario.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I should have been more specific, like a competitive team environment. Like, is there like any kind of game like that? Would there be two teams facing against each other?
I've run a couple games like that, but for the most part, you're self-contained within the group. But I've run a couple games where I've kind of had two teams face off with the same goal in mind.
Oh yeah?
Where it's I put them in the same world, the same adventure, and there's only one prize at the end, so they gotta, through their own weaving in or out of the story, they have to be the first team to get to the prize, so to speak.
Oh, sweet.
Those are fun games.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That sounds pretty interesting.
I was just thinking, like, if there was an opportunity going against another shop, like, let's say out of Kitchener or something like that, like, if there was, like, a league that could be developed around one of these games.
Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons do have a league system that they've put in play. Pathfinder has Pathfinder Society, and Dungeons and Dragons have an equivalent thing. I can't remember what it's actually called off the top of my head, but there is a league where you can join games freely. If you're in like a specific area, you always know you can drop in to a game in that place.
Oh.
Again, it's very restrictive in the fact that games of D&D are usually the storyteller with 5, maybe 6 other players.
Yeah.
So if you show up to one of these places and the game is full, it's like you might not get to play that night.
Yeah,
but they
for
do have a league play where they have like specific rules that are in place that the league has to follow, and they set the game up to be the adventures that are run repeatedly. So if you do miss an adventure, you might be able to catch that adventure somewhere else or even at the same store. I don't run a lot of those. I tried running those at my store, and I had a lot of feedback from my players. They just didn't enjoy the rigid nature of those games because they're very kept to the box, so to speak.
Okay.
You know, you don't have the same freedom you have in a broader scope game.
So they're almost scripted then.
Yeah, they're very scripted, and not saying that that's not fun for people, but a lot of veteran players, once they get going, they like to have their characters have a lot more freedom to be able to do whatever they want to do. Hence why it's role-playing.
Yeah.
But if you're contained within a specific corridor, I mean, you don't have that freedom.
How many people do you employ today?
Right now, I'm my only employee, but I'm open 7 days a week.
Wow.
And I'm open many hours. I probably put in like 70 or more hours a week at the store. So
that's crazy, man.
Between the after-hour gaming events, and
not many people do that these days. So
someone at least tries to at least take in one day off. But no, you got to do what you got to do, right?
No, I do this because this is what I love. This is my passion. I know everything about every product in my store because I've read it, played it, experienced it. You know, it's my mission to know what I'm talking about so I can serve you guys better. So when you come in and ask me a question, I 9 out of 10 times have an answer.
I'll vouch for that from talking to you today and the previous day that we were in here. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge about everything in here.
I appreciate that.
That sound indicates a commercial break. We're new though, so we don't have any ads. We'll take this time to let you know what Dufferin Spotlight actually does. Each week, we will be releasing a new episode of our show, Dufferin Spotlight on Business, which will feature a discussion with the business leaders from around Dufferin County regarding their businesses and accomplishments. The accomplishments of small business leaders mostly go unnoticed, but it is our goal to highlight and recognize them, as these are the people who keep small communities like ours alive. In addition to bringing more attention to the businesses in Dufferin, we will share the advantages of shopping local. So be sure to check back each week to see the amazing things people are doing through their businesses. To find out more about what we do and the other shows we will be producing, be sure to check us out at dufferinspotlight.ca.
So where do you think most of your competition comes from? Do you have much local competition, or is it mostly in the city, bigger comic book stores maybe, or?
You know what? When it comes to the comic book community, any stores that are hobby related, most stores are willing to work with each other because we know that by working with each other, we're only growing the community. And by growing the community, you're going to attract more customers to that community.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest competition we have is just the internet in general.
Yes.
There are a lot of people that sell comic books, that sell trade paperbacks, that sell gaming stuff that don't have a brick and mortar store. They're selling just out of their house, out of their garage, out of wherever, where they don't have the overhead we support. Therefore, they can offer things at lower prices than we can because we got to pay larger bills.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I think is hurting the hobby industry in general, whether it be comic books, gaming, whatever. Right now, is online stores can usually outdo us in prices.
Yes.
But I mean, also though, looking at your business here, for a comic enthusiast, I mean, you'd think would rather come in here and be able to look around and see what you have as well. Because I mean, maybe they'll find something that they won't find online.
Well, and that's one of the advantages to coming in and talking to me or coming to my store is you will get all my knowledge. So if you come in looking for something, I'll help you find something, at least if not the exact thing you're looking for, I can find you the closest thing too. And because of that, you know, I think that when it comes to customer service and things of that nature, I'll beat the internet every time. Yes. However, it all depends on a person's patience in this day and age. People don't have a lot of patience. They don't like to wait for things. So if they come in and they're like, hey, Chris, can you get me this book that I saw on the internet? And I'm like, well, it's going to take me 2 weeks to get it because that's just the speed of how my business works.
Shipping and all that.
Well, I have to contact a supplier. The supplier then has to contact a rep. The rep has to then contact the comic book company that produces said item. Then they have to check a warehouse. Then that item, whether it's in stock or not, has to be loaded on a truck and sent from point A to point B to point B, C to point D, so on and so forth. So It takes 2, sometimes 3 weeks for me to get something, or you can go on Amazon and get it next day.
But here's the thing, like people think online has all this great variety, but I mean, if you don't know what to look for, having a ton of variety doesn't really help you.
Oh, that's true.
Customer service helps you get there. And I mean, when I came in here and I got the comic Southern Bastards, there's no way I would have stumbled upon that myself on Amazon. Like, that's not a traditional comic that you hear about.
Well, no, exactly, and that's it. But believe it or not, I mean, there are people that will come in here and they'll hit me up for all my knowledge, then not buy it off me and go home and order it themselves online. And I think that's the same with a lot of retail. I mean,
Imagine.
You look at stores like Future Shop.
Exactly.
Future Shop,
Classic example.
Helped create the internet market for retail businesses, and it was their own downfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people would go into their store and go, hey, I want to get all the knowledge from the employees that work there, and then go home and just buy it online.
Well, everyone used to say Walmart was the big bad guy, but no one's really saying that anymore. It's Amazon, right?
I think Amazon is a bigger bad guy than Walmart.
Yeah.
But I mean, they both have their place.
Yeah.
I mean, and with that too, though, you would hope that, once again, any of the comic enthusiasts, especially that are into the role-playing games, would come help support you, because you're also bringing that out to the community, a place for everyone to play as well, right? So,
And once
One
that
would
knowledge
hope.
leaves, sorry.
One would hope.
Yeah. And once that knowledge leaves, it's gone, right? Like, you don't want to lose that. Like, that's why we need to have local businesses, because the internet, like I was saying before, if you don't know what you're looking for, it doesn't matter how much variety you have, you're not going to find it.
Yeah, if you don't know what to look for, you can't find it, right?
Exactly.
If you don't know you're looking for the needle in the haystack, you're never going to find it.
And the internet's a huge haystack.
so I think we touched on it a little bit, but if you had to pick one thing that really separates you from the competition, whether it be online or whoever, what would you say really distinguishes you from someone else?
I would probably say my product knowledge. The fact that I read every comic book, I've tried every board game I get in here. I spend the time in here. If I'm not doing things for the business, I'm studying things for the business and for what I'm doing. So
I guess
I never stop when it comes to learning about what I have to offer and what I'm doing. So
That's one of the strongest things that retail needs is product knowledge. If you don't have that product knowledge, what is the advantage of coming to a retail store, right? And never mind customer service too.
yeah, precisely.
I know, like Josh has said before too, especially with the small businesses, if you don't have that knowledge and you don't have the service, then you don't have a business either, right? So,
Well, yeah, the idea is, you want to be able to have a customer walk into your store, and even if they don't know what they're looking for, you got to be able to help them to find them what they're looking for. And, not every time you are going to have what they look for, but at least you can suggest another place to go, because that'll also look good on your business. If you come in and somebody goes, hey, I'm looking for said item, and you're like, well, I don't carry it, at least point them in the direction of where they can find it, because next time they come looking for an item, you might have it, and they're going to remember that you helped them get it.
Yeah, exactly. I think we kind of touched on this already too. What do you think people should look for when doing business with somebody in your profession? Product knowledge?
knowledge.
Knowledge is one thing. I mean, I think a friendly demeanor also helps. I mean,
Honesty.
Honesty in the trade is also good. I mean, there's comic stores that are out there that they're more like the guy off The Simpsons. It's like, what are you doing in my store kind of thing. Like,
Yeah. Good idea.
the comic and gaming community kind of have this a stigma about them where people come in and they feel like they're being alienated because they're entering the zone of of the nerd, so to speak, and
my zone.
And whatnot. So, but I'm a friendly guy. I'll talk your ear off. You come in here, I'll pick a topic. I could probably have a decent conversation on you.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to even be comic related.
No, that's great. And that's exactly what we need, right? People just having a good time, actually enjoying coming to these businesses and showing them, hey, we can beat the internet, not just on price or anything else, because sometimes we can't, it's not always possible beat on price.
There's one thing that I think that a small business could offer that a big box retailer will never be able to offer, and that is when you come into a small business, they can actually become your friend.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
you're
And
not
they
gonna-
will have your best interest at heart because they don't want to lose you as a customer, because one customer could be the difference between them staying open or closing. One customer could be the difference between them putting food on their table that night or not. I mean, small businesses rely on keeping a good name for themselves and not having a bad name, because at the end of the day, it's you guys that come to my store that pay my bills.
Exactly.
So why would I do something to frustrate you if I can avoid it?
I don't think that could be said any better.
Yeah. More people should operate that way, because not enough do.
Is there any family or friends that you'd like to mention that maybe helped you out along the way?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've had a lot of people help along the way. My family, my parents, my sister, they have all contributed in one fashion in the store. I mean, me being my only employee at the moment, I mean, if I get sick or something, I have to close the store for a day.
Yeah.
So there's been times where I've called on my sister to come in and keep an eye on things for me for the day. And I mean, my parents have always backed me and believed in my dreams. So things of that nature. I've got friends that are the same way. In fact, most of my friends that I have right now are all customers I've met in my store.
Awesome.
You know, so they're all people I've met because of my business. So every one of them is important in that sense.
That's good.
And that's really interesting too, that by you following your dream, you've also met a lot of people that are into the same stuff that you are. And I mean, it's awesome that you've been able to make good friends out of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And like we were saying before, like customers can make or break you. At the very least, the customer they can make or break your day. And I mean, a good friend coming in, that's a lot better than a bad customer.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. When you were younger, did you think you'd be doing this?
I knew that this is what I wanted to do from a very young age. It was just I kind of lost sight of it for a while.
Of course, we all do.
You know, I remember at a very young age going to like the Silver Snail in downtown Toronto, which was a massive comic store that was off of Queens. Recently it changed ownership and moved to Bloor Street, but originally it was on Queens, and it was like a 3-story store that you walked in there and it was like paradise for anybody who's into comic books and nerd culture stuff. So, and I remember going down there, visiting one of my parents' friends down in Toronto, and they took us to the store, and my brother and myself, and basically unleashed us on the store, and we had spending money, and it was glorious. And from that day on, I was kind of like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. And if there's ever a way that I could do it, I will. Even when I was in like high school, there was a small comic store close to where I lived, and I went in and made myself kind of a temporary employee, whether he liked it or not. I'd just go in and hang out, and then before I knew it, I was starting to help his customers, and he's just like, well, you got them to sell something, so keep doing that.
Thank you.
And because of that, he gave me a bunch of free comics for helping and you know, stuff like that. So, I mean, I've always had this, but, you know, after high school, I kind of got into, you know, some college stuff, and then moved around a bit, and then ended up back here. And then one day I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the leap.
Awesome.
And I leapt, and here I am.
I think that's a big thing for most people, too, is just taking that leap and not worrying about whether they fly or sink.
You got to take the risk if you're going to get the reward, right?
Well, and you know what? Owning your own business not every day is glorious.
No.
You know, there's days that you can afford your steak dinner, and then there's days that you got to live on Mr. Noodle. It's like you know, everything is dependent on, you know, how your business does. So
Yeah.
it's not like where you go get a regular 9-to-5 job and you're guaranteed that paycheck based off the hours you work. Literally owning your own business, you get what's left over at the end.
Yeah.
Once your bills are paid, you get what's left after that. And
hopefully your work
sometimes
pays
that's a decent amount, and sometimes that's nothing.
Yeah, like when you work for somebody else, like you get paid relatively no matter how hard you work. But I mean, when you're your own business owner, you have to work hard to make your money.
Oh, and it
Absolutely.
shows with you, too. I mean, working 7 days a week, you're working hard.
Well, and the thing is, too, it's like even working, you know, 70 hours a week and busting my butt 7 days a week, there are still times that I, you know, don't make ends meet.
Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I do what I love, and that's the important thing. Like I have the passion for it, so I'll weather the bad times to make it to the good times.
I think that's something a lot of people don't have, is doing something that they love every day, right? So, I mean, it's got to be something in itself to be able to say that.
it helps make the sacrifices worth it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Hey, it's Josh with another commercial break. Still no real ads, but I just thought I'd let you know that I don't know my passwords. That stops me from writing them down, sharing them, or worst of all, reusing the same password for my banking, email, and on that weird website that I'll never return to that will most likely be breached next month. This keeps me secure while making my life more convenient. To figure out how you can do the same, be sure to check out the articles on our website, dufferinspotlight.ca. Now back to the show, Dufferin Spotlight on Business.
So, if you don't mind me asking, where was your first job?
My very first job, if you don't count the comic store that I oppressed myself on,
That you didn't really work for?
that I didn't really work for, was I worked for Blockbuster Video.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
In town here?
No, actually, I was living down in the States at the time. I lived in North Carolina for 5 years.
Oh,
My father got a job down there, and the whole family went. So,
nice.
I was in, I guess, high school-ish, grade 10 through 12, and then 2 years of college down there. So my first job was Blockbuster Video in Charlotte. That didn't last very long. Then I started working at a movie theater.
Oh, yeah?
As an usher, cleaning up after people's messes, tearing tickets, that sort of thing.
Which, I mean, is kind of funny also, though, because both of those, I mean, kind of fit in with your passion for comics as well. I mean...
I'm good at finding jobs that fit with my passion.
Yeah.
Smart.
As soon as you said Blockbuster, I was thinking about it, and then you said when you're an usher, it's like, well, it makes sense. I mean, because a lot of your comics, you get to see them come to life in the movie, right? So,
oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that your knowledge would help out there, too, with people. Maybe they don't know everything behind that story, because a lot of the time the movie doesn't portray the whole story.
Well, I'm a movie buff, too, so I watch a lot of movies myself, so... that's pretty much my hobby when I'm not here, is I'm usually watching movies. But a lot of that is because of the fact that I worked at a theater and a video store. So
It helps. I mean, discounts on movies, if not free movies.
exactly.
Exactly.
So do you have quite the personal collection that you've put aside over the years?
Of comics or movies?
Of comics.
No, most of the comics that I owned, I sold to Start My Store.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
Movies, on the other hand, yes, I got 5 or 6 bookcases full of them.
I think we were talking about this last time, actually.
Yeah,
I think
we
you
were.
both have a huge
Yeah.
library.
Yeah.
No, we also have a big movie collection at home. So
Did you have any role models or positive influences growing up?
Well, I mean, I've always appreciated my parents
Yeah.
and what they've done for me. So, I mean, a lot of where I am today is because, I had decent parents growing up, and they never shied away from making sure I had what I needed. I mean, I respected a lot of influential names in the comic industry, but for the most part, I mean, it's probably just my folks.
Yeah, makes sense. They're the ones that have proven the most to you, probably.
Yeah.
well, I mean, and help and support you through your business and everything like that. And that's big steps too, and it'd help you probably build your confidence and give you that boost that you can make it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you like to discuss your education?
I know you said something about college there. What were you thinking about doing?
Well, after I graduated high school down in the States, and then from there I went into graphic design, and I did 2.5 years of a 4-year course of graphic design, and then we moved back to Canada, and I tried to get into Sheridan College, but they wouldn't transfer the credits over.
That's usually how it works.
So it was basically like start over, but that's when I kind of took a step back and said, okay, is graphic design really what I want to do?
Yeah.
I've done this for 2.5 years. Was I enjoying it as much as I thought I would? Am I good enough?
Well, especially at that point when you got to restart too, right?
Right, exactly. And then I kind of took a step back from it, and then ended up just getting a job at Blockbuster Video again, just because, hey, I did it once, did it again, started working at Blockbuster again here in town. And then from there, I ended up at Staples. And when Staples first opened here in town, I worked there.
Nice.
And I became like the head of the technology department there for a while. And then after that, after doing that for 5.5 years, I was just like, okay, this is where I've had enough. And
You definitely know the retail business, though.
and then said, I'm just going to take the flying leap. And here I am.
I mean, you definitely, like that, all that retail experience definitely has to pay off when you open up a store like this. Never mind customer service skills and all that. But I mean, just
Well, that was pretty much what I brought to the table. I mean, I figured the business side, learning how to do bookkeeping, learning how to do business management stuff. I mean, that's watching like places from like Blockbuster or Staples or whatever, watching them promote managers that started off as like cashiers up to that point. I was like, well, I guess this is something that you just learn along the way.
Yeah.
I've already got the most important lessons I need, and that's how to sell stuff.
Yeah, that is.
Right.
That is.
I mean, the bookkeeping stuff and the minding your business stuff is probably fairly easy compared to.
It's all rules.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's pretty much where I said. I was like, I got the important things.
Yeah.
I've got the customer service and I've got the product knowledge. So bookkeeping is easy after that.
Exactly. I mean, if you don't have those two things, like we keep on mentioning, you're done. Anything else you can just learn along the way. Sales
Knowledge
skills.
and customer service are number one small business.
I'm actually a firm believer that the way that things are, there's a lot of people that go to school for things that they don't necessarily have to go to school for.
No, I went to school for business. I don't think a lot of people need to go to school for business.
Well, and that's just it. It's like you're just throwing money at something just to say you have a degree.
Yeah.
Now the problem is a lot of places won't hire you unless you have that magical piece of paper that says you graduated and threw money at this.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I've discovered through my own personal thing that the person that has the degree or the person that has the experience, I'll take the experience over the degree any day.
For sure. For sure. I mean, even after you get a
I
degree, you
agree
still
with
need
that
3
too.
years.
Yeah.
They still expect you to have 3 years experience after you get that degree for a job.
I think
Which is funny because no one ever is willing to give you that experience.
Exactly.
yeah, that's the hard part. Is everyone wants a school, you get the school, and then well,
want
now you
experience.
need the experience, but they don't want to. No one will let you get your foot in the door with just the degree, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it seems to be. It's all about who you know now.
That's exactly it. Which, I mean,
I
is
don't
good.
think it's ever not been that, though.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, with LinkedIn and everything else, you think, oh yeah, this really helps, but I mean, it doesn't.
Technology is supposed to ease our burdens, not add to them. And it seems that technology, the internet, it's making things more complicated than they should be, especially this day and age when you see places like retail businesses closing down because they can't keep up with the internet.
Exactly.
When you see people who can't find jobs because somebody can always outsource somebody better on the internet, I think that technology has become a bigger hindrance than a help than it really needs to be.
So, would you like to discuss any personal struggles you've overcome?
I mean, aside from your typical things that I've already talked about, where, owning your own business is always a roller coaster of stress one week and no stress the next, and can I put food on my table this week versus, oh my God, I'm swimming in cash the next kind of thing. I mean, and you never know what moment's going to lead to the next.
Exactly.
I mean, that's been the biggest struggle, I suppose, is, the consistency of how business works, but
You always got to be prepared for the worst, then, I guess.
sometimes even that you can't be.
Yeah.
I've learned that too.
Yeah, you're never prepared.
You're never prepared because I found that Murphy's Law is a very real thing. So something will always happen at the worst possible time to push you that one more step closer to the edge.
It could always get worse.
Yep. But it can always get better.
That's true.
The best point. That's why we work.
So I know you said that you sold a lot of your comic collection to get started. Were there also any investors or was financing available to you, or did you have to come up with all that yourself?
Well, yes, I had to come up with the financing myself, but that's also where my parents helped me out.
Makes sense.
When I
Banks
first
are very
started,
rare.
I actually did have a partner. He backed me. We were looking for a loan of $50,000 from the bank. And this is the year right before the whole bank market crashed.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay,
2008.
so they were already a little bit tight.
yeah.
And at first they were like, well, if you give us backing for $25,000, we'll give you a $50,000 loan. So I was like, okay, well, I talked to my buddy Doug, who is also into this sort of thing. And he was like, yeah, sure, I can back you for $15,000. And then I went to my dad and was like, Dad, I want to start this up. And he was like, I'll back you for the other 10. So I brought that back to the bank, and then the bank looked at the fact that I had $25,000 I could throw at it, and suddenly it became $35,000. So I'm like, so then I went back to my dad. I'm like, I need another 10. And he's like, okay, I can give you another 10, reluctantly.
Yeah.
So I went to the bank with $35,000. And then the bank was like, okay, we need $50,000. I'm like, if I had $50,000 backing, why would I need your $50,000?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
But at this point, I was in a scenario where my parents were planning on moving to Ottawa
Okay.
area, and I needed to get my store set up because I'd already quit a job, and it was either I had to go with them or I had to jump and leap now.
Yeah.
And because my friend Doug had given me like stocks and bonds as the backing,
Okay.
I didn't technically have that until they matured, but it was enough to cover the loan.
Yeah.
So I really didn't have the full $50,000. So I played their game and did the $50,000 for $50,000 kind of thing. And that gave me my starting capital. And I started my business with that. And first year business went fantastic. I hit a lot of goals I needed to hit. Everything was looking good, but then I went right into that market crash right at the end. And the year and a half after that was just an uphill battle. I had to borrow more money off my my dad. My dad bought my partner out so I could get rid of my partner. And it ended up being that I just owed my dad a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit more lenient than the bank, though.
Well,
What's that?
the bank wouldn't give you any money. That was a problem.
Oh, okay.
And that was the thing. That was the thing. It's like I had a great business plan that I put together and put to them. I mean, this is back 10 years ago, 11 years ago when they were when Johnson Controls was still open.
Oh, yeah.
And they were planning on putting a 20,000 student campus of Humber College in town that ended up getting kiboshed. I mean, there was a lot of things that I had in my business plan. It's like, well, we're going to become a college town, and college kids love this stuff because it gives them something to do.
Yeah.
And, I was just like banking on a lot of these things to happen that I went into my first year of business and they didn't. And then on top of that, we ended up having a market crash. So it became rough.
Yeah, a lot of things you could never anticipate to happen.
Absolutely.
Happened, right?
Absolutely. And the reason why that like the college didn't happen is, town reasons. I know that there was something to do with an endangered species of frog involved. That's all I know.
I heard about that too, yeah.
But they were things that, I was kind of banking on to have happen to increase my business, and then they didn't happen.
Yeah, never goes to plan.
Exactly.
Like
Murphy's Law, like I was saying.
What people don't really remember is how, never mind, it's always hard for a new business to get a loan unless you have a superb, even if you have a superb business plan, they really only back you in the very few instances. And then 2008 or even before then, they weren't giving money, they were pulling loans. They were calling loans as early as they could. And if you were with a credit union, not a bank.
Well, that's actually what happened to me too. The bank that I was with halfway through my second year of business red flagged me and said that they weren't comfortable with my business.
They were doing that to everybody.
And they pulled my loan, and that's at the time when my dad bought my partner out and all that stuff, and he just backed it. But we left that bank because we were like, that was a really shady move to do.
Yeah.
Especially there were some other things we discovered as well that I don't feel comfortable mentioning. But
yeah. No, for sure.
There was other things that were involved in that as well, and we ended up going to another bank. And since then, I've been with the same bank, and haven't had anything shady happen. So
that's great. It's great. I don't know what your experience, but some people they mistake credit unions for the same thing as banks. And again, this is completely just a separate topic, but people need to be aware that when you get a loan from a credit union, they have a lot less restrictions than a bank does.
Because they could pull that at any time.
Anytime they want to. Like when something hits the fan, like what happened in 2008, that was happening a ton. And a lot of people got really hurt by it, and it just exacerbated the situation by...
Are you referring to credit unions or banks?
Credit unions. But banks have their own problems too.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just a lot less restrictions when it comes to loans with credit unions. So I'm just trying to give everyone a heads up here. I'm not talking about your experience. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure there is a difference there. But again, not just an off-topic rant, because I mean, I've heard about a similar situation happening way too often, and it's terrible. Hey, it's Josh again with another commercial break. On top of that, knowing my passwords, I also don't pay for antivirus programs like Norton, Kaspersky, or McAfee. Despite this, I feel safer than if I did have them. To see why, check out the articles on our website, dufferinspotlight.ca. Now back to our show, Dufferin Spotlight on Business.
Some of the recent stuff we talked about probably have to do with your answer, but if you had to pick one biggest challenge in starting your business, what would it have been?
Probably dealing with the starting capital.
Yeah,
I mean, that's always the biggest thing, because starting a business is not cheap. Especially retail, because you have to find a location, you have to secure the location, you have to secure the supplier. Most suppliers have a starting quota on orders that you got to place with them. So you got to hit that starting quota for the order to get your product. And then you also got to buy all your displays and shelving.
Which is important in the company.
You have to buy your point of sale system. You have to pay for employees if you're large enough to warrant employees. I mean, it's a big cost to starting a business.
Well, and
it doesn't matter whether it's retail or restaurant or anything. Starting or any sort of business is got a lot more costs involved than you think.
Yes.
Yeah, well, even if you can't display your product properly, then everything really goes by the eye, right? If it looks good to someone, they're going to buy it. And
yeah.
You gotta let people know what you do. Like that, you can't just open up a store and it's like, hey, this is it. You gotta have signage, you gotta have promotions, stuff like that.
Absolutely. And there were things when I started my business that I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot about my sign.
Yeah.
For on my store. It's like, oh, So I had to rush and get that done, which ended up costing me more than I had, thought I would have to spend on it, which was there, when I first started, one of the only places that was available was technically a place that was probably too large for me to start a business in for what I was doing. But because I had to start it, I had to take the place, which locked me into a 3-year lease into a place that was way more expensive than I needed it to be, and way larger than I needed it to be. So I had to spend a lot more money to renovate the place, to make the place look like I wanted, and to also fill it up with enough displays to make it look like I wasn't just an empty shop.
Exactly. I mean, you want people to come and they want to be able to find what they're looking for, and you got to make it look like you do have something.
Yeah,
right?
It's got to be presented
exactly
well, right? If it's a bare shop, then
it's funny because right now I'm in a location where I should have been if I was starting a business, and the one that I started in should have been one where I was maybe open after 20 or 25 years.
But I guess that's you had to do what you had to do, right? So
Exactly.
You take what you can get at the start, right? And just
Like you said, you got to take the leap sometime, or you're going to sit there milling over it over and over and over until the opportunity passes you by.
It'll never be perfect.
With you literally did leap into it, and there's some things that you wouldn't think of or know until you're up and running, right? So
Yeah, you can't anticipate everything.
Can't predict everything.
No matter how much you plan. Who was your first major customer? Like, is there a major customer you'd like to point out or give a shout out to?
I've got a couple customers that I'll drop their first name because I don't know if they would appreciate me dropping their last name. But
sure.
Matt and Mark have been coming to me, and Greg. Matt, Mark, and Greg have been coming to me since the day I opened my store. And those 3 customers have made my business viable. So it's those guys are a pleasure to have as customers, and I try to go above and beyond for them because they've been with me for 10, 11 years now, and they're awesome.
And that's something that you're not going to get from big box store, right? They're not going to go out of their way for you. I mean, that's amazing in itself.
And all 3 of them are pretty avid collectors, so it's like they're all good guys, and you know what? Every one of them, I don't know where my business would be if I didn't have at least these 3 guys.
Well, it's great because, I mean, that shows you evidence right there that you are providing a service, you are providing value. These guys, if they're coming to you this long, it's because they love coming here. And it's because they do see a huge value in what you're doing for the community.
Oh, yeah. Greg, for example, like he does not miss a Wednesday. Wednesdays is when new comics come out. And it doesn't matter if he's like dying of the plague, he would still be here. Like he will find a way to get me, even if it was raining fire and ice outside. He would find a way to be here to get his comics.
My friend didn't do it twice, so I could believe that. And I've only been here a few times. So yeah, definitely believable. So, do you have any advice for those starting their own business?
Yeah, for those starting your own business, number 1, know your market and product and know your information. Like I said, nothing helps you with your business more than product knowledge, regardless of what that product is, whether it's a service, whether you're getting into it to sell flowers, you're getting into it to fix cars, you're getting into it to repair computers, whatever it may be that you're getting into.
Yeah.
Know your product, know your stuff, because a customer will always know when you're trying to BS them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So my second piece of advice is sometimes you will stumble, sometimes you will fall, sometimes you will have to take steps back, but keep taking step forward too. Running a business is not always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you got to trudge through the swamp of eternal darkness to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not on TV or the like.
So don't, just because you have something go wrong, don't necessarily give up right away. It's like if I had a dime for everything that went wrong with my business since I started it, I would probably be very well off.
Have more money than you did if everything went right.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it was just a dime. It's still more money then.
So anyone that's jumping into it shouldn't expect to be living like a rock star right off the bat.
No, I mean, unless you're holding another job at the same time you're trying to start up a business, which is something I didn't do. I just went full into my business.
It'd be hard to do that. I mean, you want to be open during retail hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, you think retail would be pretty hard.
I mean, you can go into it with like a partner or another person that you're going to, and you can split the hours so you can each have other side jobs or whatever. But I went into it like full time right away with nothing. And like I said, the first couple years of business, you're living on air. I learned a lot of frugal lessons at the beginning of my business. In fact, I still have to fall back on some of those lessons even, to this day. There's always a month where you're going to hit where it's like, oh man, I didn't hit nowhere near the sales goals I was trying to hit. And what I'm taking home, by the time I pay my bills, I got nothing left. So it's like, oh boy.
Well, it's the tough times that show what people are really made of, man. No one's defined by the good times in life, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean,
Absolutely.
That's it.
Do you notice a slow time for sales in particular for yourself? Time of year or?
I have discovered that the slow times are probably March and probably November. And they're weird times.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed with my store is right after Christmas, people have Christmas money to spend.
Okay.
Or holiday money if you're, don't follow Christmas.
Yeah.
So for January and February, people come in with extra money that they got from grandparents or presents or whatever. But then March hits where everybody's just trying to pay off their credit cards. And the weather's usually the worst. And, Canadian winters are not exactly predictable. So
yeah, that's yes.
So March is always a struggle to make sure the people come in and buy the stuff. You're getting a lot less walk-in traffic because nobody wants to sludge through blizzards and snowstorms and
Slush,
10 feet of snow on the ground and slush
stuff.
and you name it. And because of that, I find that my Marches are very slow.
Yeah.
November is kind of slow because everybody's getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah.
And probably the last week of November all the way to Christmas is like spending spree, but that little hiccup right before where everybody's like
cracking down and
trying to save money for the big spend.
In 2 weeks.
Or trying to figure out what everybody wants for Christmas. There's a 2 or 3 week period where it gets really dry.
you could tell, how far ahead people plan.
And then there's like the occasional, like Canada Day weekend is usually quiet.
Yeah,
Everybody likes to go out and party on Canada Day weekend and Labor Day weekend. So it's like those are always rough patches, at the beginning and the end of the summer kind of thing.
It's bad for, I think that's retail in general. It's those summer holidays because everyone just loves going away, right? You get people out of town, and the sad thing is we don't have many people coming to town to replace them. We don't have much tourism here.
Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, it's hard to track because it's like one year I'll do really good in like say April, and then the next year I'll do really bad in April, and then the next year I'll be just okay in April, and then I'll be anywhere in between. It's just like every month in this, it's just more of an anomaly. I mean, I'm in a business where the things I sell are strictly based off of people's disposable income because I'm not a necessity, even though Mark, Greg, and Matt might argue otherwise.
I think they would.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm based off of disposable income, and with the cost of things going up the way that they are right now, and people getting less hours at jobs, I'm the first thing that's going to be cut from people's budgets. I might not be able to get 5 comics a week. I might only be able to get 3 comics a week. Or I might be doing already 3 comics a week, so I'm going to have to go down to 1 comic a week, or cut all the comics altogether. So that's rough. And that's happened a couple times throughout my thing, like back when the recession first happened. I had a lot of people stop doing comics, but I also had a lot of other people getting into comics because comics are still fairly inexpensive compared to, say, buying a video game.
Yeah.
Or going on a vacation, or buying a new television, or buying a car or a boat or something, right? So when money times get tough, I find a lot of people come in looking at this as a form of entertainment that might be a little cheaper than a video game, or cheaper than going on that vacation to Italy or Paris or something. So instead, let's come over and buy a graphic novel or 2.
Well, even kids, right? Like, I mean, I think parents would appreciate their kids getting a comic book for many of the reasons you specified than going out and getting a video game.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're not going after that's something that's crazily sought after, too, I mean, it is a fairly reasonable thing to start collecting for the price range as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got price points for all sorts of stuff. I mean, I got a couple boxes in the back room that I've got comics that are only $1 each in there, all the way up to, like I said, like the big appearance stuff where I got like $300 or $400 comics on the shelf. So it's like, I got a fairly large range of comics. Most new release comics are about $5 to $6
Oh, yeah?
for a new release comic. Most trade paperbacks, graphic novels are between $20 and $30. There are exceptions to the rules in both the other cases, but for the most part, you're looking at, for like a trade paperback or graphic novel, between 20 and $30, or for a new release comic, about $5 to $6.
And I don't think that's unreasonable. Like, I mean, there's the artwork that goes into a comic, the writing, everything else, never mind the continuity, because, I mean, it's built on a big brand. It makes sense. Never mind the retailers themselves and distributors, everybody along the line. Like, it's not unreasonable for $5 for a comic. Like, that's
not
$5,
at all.
$6. Like you mentioned before, there's things like video games, which a lot of them nowadays aren't getting you much more time than a comic book would. But hey everyone, this is our last commercial break. If you made it this far, thank you, and I must assume you found this interesting. To keep up to date with new episodes, which will release every Tuesday, be sure to subscribe to us using your preferred listening channel. We are available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, in addition to Facebook and YouTube. And of course, our content can always be found on our website, dufferinspotlight.ca. If you would like to see us on your preferred platform, please feel free to contact us through our website. We prioritize accessibility to our shows, so we will do our best to make it happen. That's it for commercials, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the first episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business.
Do you have future plans for expansion? Or I know you said you're working 7 days a week. Like, do you see maybe in the horizon hiring someone, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, if business starts to boom again and things, start picking up and, things of that nature, anything is possible. I mean, I've got a lot of ideas that I'd like to do with the store. I mean, a lot of great ideas, but unfortunately, those ideas are all...
They all have to come into play as it goes.
As funding comes available, so...
I'm sure you'd love a weekend off.
You know what? I find myself, if I'm not at my store now, all I do is fret and think about my store.
Understandable.
And then I start going, oh my God, if I'm taking a day off, what am I missing out on?
Yeah.
Am I missing, would Mark or Greg or somebody show up and would have spent money, or am I disappointing somebody or so?
You're getting homesick for this.
Well, it kind of is like that. But you know what? If I really need a day off, what I do is I come here and I just, hang out and just don't work. I'm here in presence and body, but and if people come in, I'll still give them the customer service and everything. But when customers aren't in the store, I'm on YouTube doing my product research or whatever, and I don't find that work. I find that just entertainment for me. So,
well, when you love to do it,
exactly,
it's not work, right? So,
or I'll be sitting here writing one of my Dungeons and Dragons games or something. So it's like and that to me is fun. So it's all good.
You can do it here, and that again helps you with your projects.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it all builds. So would you say you've exceeded your original goals?
No. Originally, I was thinking I would be bigger than I am now. But like I said, with the cost of things and with the economy, I hit a lot of roadblocks within the first couple of years of being open, which held me back. And there's been a lot of bumps along the way. I would like to have been in a bigger spot than I am now to accommodate more people in my store at a given time. I'm not going to say that it's going to be past tense because I'd still like to do them. I have a lot of amazing ideas to improve my store. It's just, again, back to what I was saying there is, they all have a cost attached to them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cost and time.
Yeah, there's constraints.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of things I would like to improve on my store, but
we should never be satisfied with what we do.
That's the thing. I always say to people, I can make $1 million a day, and I'll still want to find a way to improve.
Exactly.
I mean, but that's the way you have to be especially with small business. Once again, I mean, you always have to be improving. You always have to be satisfying the customer, and that's why down the road, I'm sure that you will keep growing, right? Because you have that want to learn more and give people your knowledge and have happy customers.
Yeah.
And you have tough competition. So, I mean, you always have to keep on improving.
Well, like I said, I'm trying to get more of an online presence so I can maybe attempt to at least compete with some of the online places. It's just difficult to do that because of, like I said earlier, the internet is a weird creature because there's always going to be people that can offer it for a lower price because they don't have the same overhead I do.
Exactly.
They don't have to pay for a lease on a unit. They don't have to pay for all the expenses I have because they're just selling it out of their basement, their garage, their home, wherever. And so they can always find a way to undercut
Or even worse, like with some of these big guys, they don't even make money. They have other parts of their business subsidize the money losing parts.
Yeah,
like
that's
Amazon.
another. I don't unfortunately have that. Yeah.
Yeah, like we don't have huge data servers to support our retail business that loses us money like Amazon does. No small business owner can afford to do that.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the competition we have to go against.
Yeah, I mean, if you're losing money on everything you sell, you don't have a business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lights aren't going to be on, so.
So no.
And I mean, I'm sure that'll be one of them as well. But if you were to think, consider what could be your biggest challenges ahead, what would you say they would be?
How to keep people shopping in a store as opposed to shopping online.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is the biggest challenge for retail in general right now, regardless of
it is.
what you do.
When you look at that, it's really going in the wrong direction.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, I think it's 67% of jobs in Canada are retail or service industry. So 67% of people are earning their wages selling things or providing a service.
Yeah.
If the internet with online retail continues the way it is, and retail businesses and service businesses that are being outdone by online keep dropping, then 67% of people are going to not have jobs, which means where's the money coming from to keep the rest of the infrastructure going?
I mean, and same when you look at a lot of the big box stores, and I know with, wages going up and the prices of product going up, but you look around and jobs are already being replaced, and they're putting in the automatic checkouts everywhere you go. It's automatic checkouts, and there's no customer service there.
Oh, the automatic checkouts, they're an interesting conundrum, because I think the automatic checkouts, I don't think they're necessarily replacing employees. They're allowing businesses to shuffle employees to more important areas.
That's the argument, yes.
Right? And I've seen that in action. Places that offer the automatic checkouts are allowing the employees to have less boring jobs. It's not exactly exciting being a cashier.
No, for sure.
So they can go and they can work in other departments. They don't have to be stuck servicing a person. And now the downside though is there's a lot of these online these self checkouts that don't work the way they should.
Yeah. That's it.
And it's like I had an experience where I went into Walmart about a month ago, and I was only picking up a couple items, and I looked over, and there was like two girls that were in like the lined checkouts, and then there was one person operating the self-checkouts, and there was a bunch of people using the self-checkout. So I was like, I'll go in the self-checkout line because it's moving faster.
Yeah.
I ended up going to the self-checkout thing and discovered, oh, they don't accept cash. Well, I have cash in my pocket that I was going to use to pay for this thing. So then I had to call the cashier over. Well, the cashier had almost every light at every self-checkout, and this one lady that was covering all 10 checkouts had to go from checkout to checkout to checkout anyway. And by the time that I got her to come to me just to accept my cash, I could have gone through the other checkout line probably 5 times over. So it's like, well, that didn't work out too good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're, like I said, they're a double-edged sword. They're allowing the shuffling of employees, supposedly, to other spots.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're a lot of hassle. This is another one of those examples of technology is supposed to make our lives easier, but does this really?
Yeah.
Or does it just make it more annoying?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, like, we were talking about retail before and how difficult it is to keep people in the stores. Like, even the big guys are having trouble with that. Like, they're experimenting with all these crazy things, like turning their retail storefronts into Instagram hangouts where they're not really selling anything. They just want people to hang out and promote their brand from hanging out in the store. Small businesses can't afford to do that.
I'll say it once and I'll say it again. The reason why big box retailers are not necessarily doing well has nothing to do with things like Instagram hangouts or self-checkouts. It's treat your employees better, so they're willing to give better customer service. Therefore, a person is more willing to come there. People are starting to realize that price isn't everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes service is important.
Exactly, and knowledge.
The experience you have at the place. If you go into a big box retailer and you shop there 2 or 3 times, and every time you can't find an employee, when you find an employee, and you ask them a question, they're like, I don't know.
Or the only service they give you is
or
like,
the
hey,
only services they give you is point you in the direction of maybe where the item is, but
Somewhere
don't actually.
between aisle 1 and 9.
Yeah, it's between aisle 1 and 99. It's somewhere there.
or try to sell you on a warranty you don't need.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that are frustrating, and it's not necessarily the fault of the employees.
For sure,
It's the fault of the actual companies with the employees.
Yeah,
because
they're
like I
not
said, I
stupid.
used to work at Staples, and we used to have to do things like sell warranties, and we used to have to do upsell people and whatnot. But I mean, you got to do that in any retail. You don't think when a person walks into my store that I don't be like, hey, you know what? You liked this comic last time. Why don't you try this one this time? I'm always trying to upsell people myself in my store.
What's value add?
But the difference is I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And you think
that's
it's going to
the-
value add to their lives. Like signing someone up for a warranty, or like when I worked at Zeller's, credit cards, none of this stuff is really improving people's lives. But when you try to sell an additional comic, that's trying to give them more enjoyment. Like you're getting money out of it too, but they're going to get something out.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you give somebody a good shopping experience, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
If somebody goes back and they have a bad shopping experience, they might give you the benefit of the doubt and say maybe you had an off day. But if it happens again, you've lost them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they might start looking elsewhere
Right.
where they can get that
It's the
better
same thing
service.
too when it comes to like having a bad experience somewhere. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been the occasional customer that may have had a bad experience in my store.
Every store has that.
Every store has that.
Exactly.
But when you have a bad experience in a store, you're more likely to tell somebody about it
Yeah.
than when you have a good experience in a store. It's not like when you leave a store, you're going, wow, oh my God, I can't believe I had a good experience at the store. I'm going to tell 5 friends about that.
Yeah,
Or even when you look
But
at
people like to complain,
Yeah.
so people like to talk about when a store or a bad situation happens.
90%.
Oh my God, I can't believe that this waitress in this said restaurant, treated me that way. Or I can't believe I went in there and the employee behind the counter was, didn't know what he was talking about. Or, it's like people love to gossip about the bad stuff.
And if you look at reviews online, I mean, most of those, if someone's going to take time out of their day to go write something, it's going to be because they had a bad experience, not
Right,
because they had a
exactly.
good one.
Right. So if you want to actually do a store a favor or a thing a favor, if you ever have a good experience in a store, something that you actually feel good about, go find them on social media, go find them and let them know that they did something right.
Yeah.
Take 5 minutes to quickly write an email, take 5 minutes to go onto their Instagram or their Facebook page or whatever and write a good review for them.
That's how you really support
Let
them.
everyone know
Right?
that this person was able to help you.
will help that business more than you know just by giving one good review, because one good review can outbalance 5 bad reviews.
Exactly, because they're usually more thoughtful. Not
Because
just
more
anger.
people, like you said, more people are more likely to go and give a bad review than a good review.
Exactly, and that's when I look at reviews, I usually look for the good ones first, because I mean that's the first thing I think of is the person that's pissed off is going to go home, they're going to go online, and they're going to angrily write out that bad review.
Yeah, and I know a lot. I know a couple people that specifically go just write bad reviews for the sake of writing bad reviews.
Jesus.
They've never been in the store. They just go out and they make something up.
Well, I mean, I guess that's part of, when things get tight and competition gets hard. I'm sure there's people out there that do that just for the sake of putting
Well,
someone
no,
else
I'm just
down.
talking about they just do it because they like to be
Trolls.
Trolls. They like
Well,
to
I
be
get-
trolls. They have nothing against the business. They've never been to the business. They just
Yeah.
go write a bad review because they think it's funny.
And it's not funny, especially with smaller businesses, because you're
Exactly.
hurting someone's livelihood.
If you want to go do it to Walmart, go ahead. But I mean, leave
Well,
the
come
small
on.
guys alone.
Everybody knows that people don't go to Walmart for the customer service.
Yeah.
They go because Walmart has prices
Yep.
and variety.
Exactly. Exactly.
But like I said, people are starting to learn that prices and variety are not the be-all, end-all.
Yeah, it's not the specialty for it if you're looking for that particular product
Yeah.
or you need that knowledge, like you said. I mean, so I know if
Being a specialty store that knows what they're talking about is better than being a jack of all trades that doesn't know what they're talking about.
Master of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying there's not good ones out there at all, but same thing. I mean, when you think about some renovations and stuff like that too, sometimes it's better to get the guy that knows exactly that trade that you need compared to the overall. I'm not saying there's not people that can't do a great job at all of it, but I mean,
Well, I think that all comes down to that old saying, you get what you pay for.
yeah.
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 You keep wanting lower prices and you keep wanting that sort of thing, you're going to get an inferior product and an inferior employee.
Well, I like the, do you want fast, cheap, or good? You can only pick 2, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get everything if you're looking for fast and cheap. You're probably not going to get quality.
So, are you looking forward to anything in the near future?
I'm always looking forward to what's going on in my industry. Like I said, every Wednesday to me is like Christmas because every day I get to open my order and see what else is new, what else is happening. Like I said, I read the stuff that comes through my store, so I'm excited always about what new stories are coming down the pipeline, what my favorite writer or favorite artist is doing next. You know, what amazing thing is in the works. What new collectible might be coming down the pipeline, what new game might be coming out. And so, like, yes, I'm always looking forward to stuff. I think my business is very good for constantly making you look forward to stuff.
That's right. Every week or every 2 weeks.
I mean,
right?
There's a new comic every title of comic has a new one come out every month. So there's always the next issue to look forward to.
So I guess that kind of be a bonus for you as well, right? Because you kind of get that first glimpse of what's coming out next.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't always get to read them right away. I mean, like yesterday, I unboxed all the comics, and I think I got to read one of the new releases that came out because I was busy enough yesterday and today that I just haven't had time to look at the stack of stuff that I got waiting for me to read this week. But
It's never perfect.
yeah, exactly. But eventually, I'll have it read in the next couple of days, and then when people come in and hit me up, I'll be able to tell them what it's all about.
Awesome.
Moving forward, do you have a exit strategy or succession plan, anything like that in order? Or
Like we know you're pretty early on, but do you have a dream?
I'm living it.
That's a good answer, actually.
This is what I wanted to do, and here I am doing it. I mean, I guess my dream at this point would be to improve it to do it better.
So yeah, you don't want to leave.
I'm doing what I want to do. This is it.
So when you're 90, we'll find you in here still reading comics and
Hopefully by then I'll
spreading
have a
your
day off.
knowledge.
Yeah, at least one day.
At least one. It's probably where I'll be on dialysis or something because I'm old.
Well, is there anything you'd like to bring up?
Just, it's vitally important to support your local businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, the people in your community not only appreciate it, but the people that work for the business, that own the business, will always welcome your business. Supporting a local business is the number one way to save the economy. And if you can find it through a local business as opposed to buying it online, give the local business a chance. Even if it takes a couple extra days, unless you're in like a life or death, I need this ASAP scenario.
Yeah.
Give the local business a chance to get the product because, for you, it's just a matter of inconvenience of what time you get the product, but for that local business, it could make their day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, if you don't use them, you're going to lose them. And there's examples of businesses that we've lost that we regret.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's tons of businesses even here in town that I can think of that, have come and gone that I wish were still here. So
Exactly.
I mean, and that's where I really hope that things go great for you. And because, I mean, the knowledge you have and the customer service is unreal. So
It's unparalleled from what I've seen, man. You're definitely not going to get that on the internet. So awesome. So thank you for your time.
absolutely, guys. Anytime you need me to do something like this, I'll gladly take part.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Take care, everyone.
All right, guys. So that was with Chris Peddle at 5 First Street and Gauntlet Comics. So anybody that needs a comic should come by. And even if you just want to talk to Chris and learn more about comic books in general or gaming, he'd be a great person to talk to.
Yeah, and once again, guys, you can reach me at gauntletcomics@gmail.com, or you can get me on Facebook at Gauntlet Comics on Facebook, or come and catch me in the store. Pretty much every day I'm at the store from 11 to 6.
Awesome.
Except Sundays I close at 5, but 11 to 6 pretty much every other day.
All right, everyone. That's it for our first episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Chris Peddle at Gauntlet Comics for helping us make the show a reality, and thank you to our first set of listeners. If you enjoyed this and would like to hear more about the businesses and leaders that make Dufferin what it is, be sure to check back next Tuesday. As mentioned earlier, we can be found on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and our website, dufferinspotlight.ca. If there's anywhere else you'd like to see us, please let us know through our website, and we'll do our best to get on it. Until then, explore your community and shop local. I promise you that, even if you've been here your entire life, there's something worthwhile that you haven't discovered yet. All you have to do is go for a walk. Or you can just listen to our show. It's probably better to do both, though. Anyways, thanks again for listening to Dufferin Spotlight on Business. Have a great week, and hopefully see you next Tuesday. Thanks.